Well, hello there, Sagittarius. Dadhichi here from astrology.com.au. It's February 2019. This is your month in focus, a brief synopsis of what's going on. To those of you who are new, welcome. I'd like to sort of talk about the way you think. This month is critical for the way you think. We see the new moon taking place in your third house. This is your superficial thinking mind. And when a new moon takes place in any part of the zodiac, it's going to activate that part of the zodiac, that star sign, that principle that's regulated by that area of the horoscope. So the third house has to do with your conscious reasoning mind. It's considered the superficial mind, and the new moon here is an excellent way for you to step out of your habitual way of thinking to really adjust that to, I suppose, put yourself in the context of where things are going in modern times. We do all become habituated to ways of thinking. Things become more comfortable. We were accustomed to drawing our conclusions through that sort of rationale. We become fixed in our opinions. And if that sort of habit becomes too entrenched, then we start to ossify. We become paralyzed and we become mentally dead. I see it everywhere. I see mentally dead people everywhere. They are victims and prisoners of their own thinking. So this month is about stepping out of that, Sagittarius. And you, of all the signs, you have the archer, you're the fire sign that's, pointing your arrow out there to the beyond. You are open, expansive. You are generous in listening to ideas. So I think although this is happening for you in the third house, I don't think it's the sort of transit that's going to bother you too much, but you could tweak the way you think, the way you make decisions, the way you negotiate, for example. Everything in the third house relates to those types of things. You've got Mercury and the Sun there right now as well. That shows you are probably in some process of negotiation, some process of learning, understanding. So there's a lot covered by this. Later in the month, the other important transit of the moon is the full moon that takes place in the sign of Virgo. And Virgo for you is very, very significant in that it regulates your professional activities, the development of your ego. And in Hindu astrology, this 10th house, which is where this full moon takes place, is what's called Karma Sthana, or the house of karma, the house of deeds and actions. So the full moon there is very telling because it is an emotional planet. It rules your deeper psychological sector, the 8th house. And having that connection between this planet, your 8th house of deeper psychological significations, and work, deeds and karma, shows us the intimate link between the emotional investment of your activities professionally and the results of those activities. You have to be engaged emotionally. You have to be part of what you're doing. And there has to be an amount of love, pure love, for what you're doing, for the work to be significantly high quality. I'm not sure if you've heard of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. There's only a very, very small percentage of people in the world who produce the greatest works of art, greatest music, greatest architectural feats, greatest literary works. This is the minority, which is why, in my opinion, and I shouldn't really throw my political opinions here in, but that is why socialism doesn't work, because the smaller number of people in a society produce the greatest good, work the hardest. You're always going to have a larger number of people that are, it's sad to say, dishonest and lazy. They, if you have a socialist type of environment. And that's, I'm raising this because you may actually be in a situation, maybe not a socialist society, but you may be in a workplace scenario where you're looking around you and everyone's dozing off for coffee, smoke breaks. You're the one working and you're thinking this is inequitable. So that is where maybe it's time to have a look at the type of work you're doing, the way you're interacting with the people around you. This is a very significant transit for you, both of these phases of the moon this month. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was the transit of Mars into your 6th house on February 14. And as you can see here, I'm going to jump the gun here, the transits often repeat a thread or a theme here. Now, the 6th house is also work. It's more to do with the actual day-to-day detail of how you do things, the people you work with. And Mars is a pretty combative planet. So I may not be too far off the mark. Tell me if I am. I mean, of course, this is going to work across the board for all of you born in the sign of Sagittarius. So depending on the specific date, it will relate to you more or less. But combat, argumentativeness, being at odds with the people that you work with is also an aspect of this particular transit that you have to watch. That's Mars moving to your 6th house. And by the way, it's going to make a really combative conjunction with Uranus. That started now, and that will continue up until the 14th. So the first 2 weeks of this month, you'll probably grin and bear whatever combative people you have to deal with. And some of these scenarios will be unexpected. There may be a change in routine, a change in the work structure. And after the 14th is when you have to be very, very careful. You're likely to go off at the drop of a hat. You're likely to do and say things that you'll regret later. So do be careful. The other thing with this is that the 6th house has to do with your health and vitality and your personal lifestyle choices, not just your work lifestyle choices. So when I see this, I often see people who are into eating a lot and really partying, and especially spicy, hot foods and rich foods. So do be careful. Have a much more bland diet throughout the month of February to help you just keep your health intact. But that's also going to make you a lot more efficient in terms of work and these other negotiations that are going to take place throughout the month of February. On the 18th, the Sun transits the 4th house very quickly. That's your family affairs. There's going to be a lot more connection there, and maybe connections with your dad or older male members of your family. Venus moves to your 3rd house right on the first day of March. But I'm going to mention this because it will give its impact even slightly just before that date of the changeover. That's a very nice communication aspect. I won't spoil the surprise for next month, but suffice to say that those communications blocks and head-on confrontations that may occur in February are likely to be smoothed over by the very last couple of days of the month and into the next month of March. That I'll tell you more about when you join me here. But until then, please don't forget to pop into astrology.com.au, my website. Have a look at the textual readings I've done for the month. Also, the year in focus is there. Loads of services, products such as reports, personal services with me. Drop me a note if you want to ask me anything. Subscribe, of course. And by all means, have a great month. And I'll see you here again. Bye-bye.